Hey, Emily, how you doing tonight?
Well, one thing I'll say is I loved the Spice Girls reunion last night. What do you think
Yeah?
of that?
Okay, so how bad am I that I didn't watch the closing ceremonies?
Oh, so bad. Well,
Am I?
weren't very good.
I mean,
But it was good to see the Spice Girls back together and see Posh dancing.
you know, so so here's the thing. I can't watch the Spice Girls because when the Spice Girls came out the first time around, my oldest daughter, my stepdaughter, was like 12. So we got the brunt of the Spice Girl. I mean, I went to go see the Spice Girls movie. I saw Spice World in the theaters.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
So I've kind
cool.
of right. So for me to watch the Spice Girls now, it just makes me think about how my daughter's now 25 and it's old, and then I can't do it. So
I understand. And you probably got as much Spice Girls in that period of your life than you ever need for an entire lifetime.
exactly. I did my duty with the movie. All right, so let's talk about a couple of things now. First of all, you've got a story out tomorrow, all about Paul Ryan, Mitt Romney's vice presidential pick, right?
That's right. I mean, he, as everyone knows, Paul Ryan is the name on everyone's lips these days, or this weekend, I should say. And what's really amazing, and there's a lot of controversy whether he's too conservative and whether he is giving all this ammunition to the Democrats. And my take on it.
Who's really? Is there controversy
Yeah,
over that?
well, the Democrats will say that he's giving all this ammunition to the Democrats, I should say,
Okay.
or the mainstream media is saying he's giving all this ammunition. And to
Can-
be fair, it's true, because for the one time in Washington, somebody actually started to reform Medicare. Now, to the Democrats, that's a negative thing. To Americans, that's a positive thing, because Medicare is going bankrupt in 12 years. The trustees of the Medicare program have said that clearly. Timothy Geithner has said that. I mean, there's no mystery here. And Medicare is the biggest driver of our debt, which is now just about hitting $16 trillion, and is the biggest problem in our economy. It's Medicare and the health care costs. But of course, but it's always been called the third rail of politics, that phrase, because you can't touch it, like in the subway, you can't touch the third rail, you get electrocuted.
Right.
And electrocution are all the old people who completely freak out when you mention anything with Medicare and Social Security because they think it's going to affect them.
So basically, Paul Ryan wants to electrocute old people? Is that what you're telling me? Is that the attack ad, Emily?
That's what Nancy Pelosi would say.
only because Sojourner Truth told her first.
That's right. And then David Axelrod called them.
That's right.
So, I mean, it all circles back. But, that's the thing, and seniors do freak out. But this time around, when Paul, and I just think it's worth looking at is Paul Ryan was the first politician who actually put this in legislation, and he got beat up for it. It was in the spring of 2011, and he said we're going to move to, and the Republicans were very careful that year. They never used the word privatize because they learned that lesson. You can't talk about privatizing. And they never use the word vouchers. They learned that lesson. So they call it premium support programs. And it says the government will then give the seniors money and they can buy any health insurance they want. Prices will go down, coverage will go up, probably get to keep your own doctor. I mean, really good things. And this time around, in the talk of reforming, House Republicans, led by Paul Ryan, repeated till they're blue in their face, if you're over 45, you will not be affected by any of these reforms. If you're out of near retirement, this doesn't affect you. So it kind of prevented them from all completely freaking out this time.
Right.
Quite frankly, I believe that I think senior citizens are quite selfish about this. And they by not allowing, and they're the biggest voters, they turn out in such high percentages, they have so much power, and that's why this thing has become the third rail. But the thing is, bankrupting Social Security and Medicare isn't going to affect their lives. Bankrupting this country because of those programs isn't going to affect their lives.
Okay,
it affects their grandkids
but here,
and their kids.
Okay, in defense of old people for a second, I think everybody is a selfish voter. I mean, you're like, right? On some level, I go to the polls and I vote what I care about. I vote, my rights. I vote my freedoms. I want a president who knows something about the economy other than killing jobs and spending my money. There are things that I care about. there are things that seniors are going to care about. Now, we may not always agree on things, but what I think you're right about, and what I think you hit on, Emily, is that Ryan was able to kind of take the third rail away because he said, okay, this doesn't impact you. And people, roughly our age, who will be impacted by this, well, we need something to change because, as you say, this is going to be a bankrupt program in 12 years, so it's not going to be around for us anyway.
That's right. And it has, you see Romney is in Florida today, and he's got plenty of support with seniors because this time around they listen, and the Republicans, led by Paul Ryan, did a really good job of communicating this. They said, and quite frankly, they put it on paper. Whereas every time before then, it's been discussion. Simpson-Bowles Commission. And Obama does speeches. He doesn't do legislation. He's never done a single thing about entitlement reform or the major problems with the debt ever. So he's just not even in the game here. And so, this time around, but you said, the seniors, we all vote for what interests us, but they see that's not affecting them. But I also think that they really understand now, because the crisis is now, it's not, 10, 20 years down the road, that the level of debt we have is not sustainable. They see what's going on in Europe because of our debt, and they can't, put the burden on their children and grandchildren, and what's going to happen to our country.
I think you're right, and I think I think too there are look, there are a lot of people who are senior citizens now who are still going to be here. When things will get really, really dicey if we don't start to deal with the financial situation. So they, not only will they be passing this on to their kids and grandkids, they may very well have to deal with some of the repercussions too. And when we see, cities in California enter into bankruptcy, when we see what's going on with, like Detroit, Michigan, you're right. It now seems a little more real than perhaps it did, even 4 years ago.
And that all being said, it's still not stopping the Democrats from their Medicare tactics.
Well, of course not.
Obama's on the campaign trail saying, and Nancy Pelosi and all of them, Joe Biden saying, Republicans, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan want to end Medicare as you know it. And the thing is, yes, they do want to end Medicare as we know it, because Medicare as we know it is not sustainable. It's going to go bankrupt, and it's bankrupting this country. But they don't say all that sentence. They just say they want to end Medicare. They want to voucherize Medicare. And the thing is, both Mitt Romney, it's so hard because both their names are R's, It's going to be hard to do this, especially for you on the radio. Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan believe what they've now have is like their mutual plan is that seniors will be allowed to keep. If they want to stay into the current Medicare fee-for-service plan, they can keep it. So if they're afraid of change, that's an option. They can keep it. So that sort of like takes away some of the fears of more, older, more close to retirement people.
All right.
But again, the Democrats are not going to get into the weeds, things like explaining the truth and, explaining how this is going to work. And so, Ryan himself had to face attack ads from the DCCC in his district in 2011 saying he was ending Medicare. They're hitting it on a national level now. So it's just going to be a matter of just continually communicating what they actually are proposing. And what they're proposing is really pulling our country back from bankruptcy, from Greece.
It's funny. The more Obama and Team Obama and their unaffiliated super PACs, I don't even know what sort of political affiliation they might have, go after Ryan in that way, it gives him the platform to go out there and talk about what he and Mitt Romney want to do.
That's right.
In a way, it's kind of a rope-a-dope. Please keep hitting me. Please keep saying I want to, push grandma off a cliff. Please, go ahead. Tell me that again.
Right, because, otherwise the president wants to obsess about things like Mitt Romney's tax returns or, these things, or women contraception rights and things, that just no one cares about except for Obama and the far, far left.
When does when does the anti-hunting attack start against Paul Ryan?
I know. I just say, Paul Ryan is, a hunter all his life. He is an NRA member. He owns a shotgun. He owns a rifle. He is A-rated by the NRA every year, every cycle. And the pictures of him with deer are going to start. And, at the same time as the left is going to be calling for assault weapon ban, high-capacity weapon ban, stopping the sale of ammunition. I definitely think that he brings that all issue up. But I also think for all the gun owners out there, they have someone on the ticket who is a gun owner, who is a lifetime NRA member, and who is an active hunter.
Absolutely. And a noodler as well, from what I understand, at least
I know,
on occasion.
and also, then he catches fish with his hands or something.
That's the noodling.
Oh,
Yeah, that's what
okay.
they call
Is
it.
the same thing?
Oh, did you think I was talking about like making pasta or something?
No, actually, I thought you were talking about, because I also read What's the Crossbow, which I get a little bit confused.
Oh, yeah. No, noodling is where you, and I've never done it. I'll be honest with you. Growing up in Oklahoma, I was always taught, don't reach your hand into the holes, on the sides of the creeks and the lakes. But that's what you do. And I guess, if you're lucky, you don't get a water moccasin. If you're lucky, you don't get a snapping turtle. You get a catfish instead, and you grab it and you yank it out and you wrestle it around. Yeah. So
Well,
we've got a
let's
vice
just say,
presidential candidate that does that.
Paul Ryan is not an East Coast elitist. That's one thing we can say about him.
We only get one vice presidential debate this year. Do you think we could have a vice presidential noodling contest? Let's have the, let's have the vice presidential great outdoors contest, and we can see, an archery competition, rifle competition, noodling. Do you think Biden would go for
Biden
it?
doesn't have a chance. He just doesn't have a chance, bless his heart. I think he's what does he do? He jet skis.
No, I think Romney jet skis. Maybe Biden. They remember
fail?
when they went after Romney for his jet ski, as if jet skis
Yeah,
were.
that's true.
I think Biden takes Amtrak. He likes to ride the train back and forth. All right, now, Emily, we only have a couple of minutes left here, but I've got to congratulate you and thank you for writing about what's going on with Mayors Against Illegal Guns, putting these regional coordinators in city halls around the country.
It is unbelievable.
Isn't that bizarre?
I know you interviewed, and I think it's fantastic, the Ohio Media Trackers, this media outlet that found these emails. What is so shocking, and just in a quick summary here, is in City Hall, on taxpayer dollars, there are people who spend their time after a shooting immediately, within minutes, if they get a CNN alert, start figuring out how many people are died, where the guns came from, and so they can figure out what issue they can push for. Not only that, these people did. These are all Bloomberg employees. They worked with this anti-gun organization called Progressive Ohio to set up a condolence website. So for the shooters in the shooting in Ohio last February, set up a condolence website so they could take the emails of people and use them for their own purposes, for their anti-gun purposes. Is there anything more sick? And I called these Progressive Ohio people and talked to them, and I got an earful from one of them, yelling and screaming how I could ever doubt their sincerity about their condolence site. And I said, well, I doubt your sincerity because I have emails in front of me from Mayor Bloomberg's office saying that they're taking the names and emails off of your condolence site to use for their political purposes. And he then started screaming, I want to talk to your editor, and how dare you? And I was like, here's his name and number. I'm sure he would love to talk to you even more. So,
wow.
They just have, there's absolutely no shame, and that was what my editorial was about today, is the exploiting gun tragedies. And I will say, which I didn't even know until I wrote this, that the NRA has a policy, which I think is so interesting, why I always, quite frankly, I'll say, I was talking to your producer, Cameron, earlier, and I said I always sort of criticize the NRA for when they get beat up after these shootings, they kind of keep quiet, you don't hear any peeps. And I always think, defend yourselves, get out there, you're getting attacked. But I've since found out the NRA has a policy. Their spokespeople do not say anything until all the funerals and memorial services are over for these tragedies and people, the murdered, or, out of respect for the families and loved ones. And, I thought that policy, I wish everyone knew that policy, because I would like to say Mayor Bloomberg, instead of going out, as he did last week, right after the Sikh shooting in the temple, to a Sikh temple to start calling for more gun laws and politicizing it, how about some respect and let these innocent people get buried? The other side, the anti-gun side, has absolutely zero respect for the innocent who are murdered. Zero. They jump right all over it, calling for their causes, and I think they should take a page from the playbook of the NRA, who at least has the common decency to not even defend themselves until after the funerals are over.
Emily Miller of the Washington Times, thank you so much for coming on the program tonight. Always a pleasure, and hope we can do it again soon.
Of course. Talk to you soon.
All right, Emily Miller with us once again.